Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Crypto Entrepreneurs Podcast with your host, Charles. Enjoy.
Hello, and welcome to episode 16 of the Crypto Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, the Crypto Guy, and today we're sitting down with full-time trader, Nekoz. So, how you doing today?
Dude, I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, dude, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate when, entrepreneurs take time out of their day to come and talk to me and gives my audience this new knowledge. So I really appreciate you coming on. Now, before we jump into kind of what you're working on and your area of expertise, can you just give us a little background on what you were doing before crypto?
Yes. So before crypto, I was a full-time trader. I was trading in traditional financial stocks. I did a little bit of forex, did a little bit of commodity trading, but mainly about stocks. And I was also an engineer. So I was a civil engineer. I worked for alternative fueling companies. I did projects with Disney and other Fortune 500s with their alternative fueling needs across the United States.
All right, so it sounds like you're a pretty bright guy. So you said you were working full-time as an engineer.
Yes.
I'm assuming you were doing some stock trading on the side. You said you traded commodities, a bit of forex, mostly stocks. So there had to be some point where you decided, I'm going to do this full time. Can you just briefly touch on that before we jump into some other stuff?
Yeah. So while I was a engineer, because I was a project manager as an engineer, I had flexibility in my schedule. As long as the project was on schedule, on budget, I had the flexibility to be able to trade full time. So I was waking up early, tracking the market, and I was on the verge of actually pulling the trigger to get my MBA to focus more into finance. Now, I was still on the fence about it, but then late 2016, early 2017, I was introduced to Ethereum. Got my first Ethereum sub $100. Got my first Litecoin sub I think $15 or $10, and it skyrocketed up. And then I immediately realized that there was more to this than just Ethereum, just Bitcoin and Litecoin, just on Coinbase. So that's when I really dove in, started charting specifically at that time on Bittrex, Poloniex, and then realized there was a lot of money to be made in this market if you could use those traditional techniques towards cryptocurrency trading. But of course, cryptocurrency trading is a lot more volatile versus traditional stocks. So that's where I had to make the decision to quit engineering and go full time into crypto, because it was a 24-hour market and it was a lot more volatile. I could not just sit in positions for weeks.
You were trading stocks and stuff part-time as a project manager because you had that flexibility, but
Correct.
Then you made that move to crypto where, things are hectic, things are wild. They're going on 24/7, and you really needed to keep a closer eye on the market. So, for a lot of people out there who may be listening, I kind of just want to mention before we jump into this that trading has to be a full-time job in most cases. A lot of people think they can day trade on the side with crypto, but it's something that you really need to be in tune with, and you really need to be paying attention close to 24/7, especially if you're going to make, a decent living off of it. So just to everyone out there who's listening, understand that before making that leap. I know some people jumped into it, height of the bull market. I had a friend who quit his job to trade and then realized that, oh wait, he wasn't this great trader. It just happened to be that he got really lucky in the bull run. So, assess all of that before jumping headfirst in. Kind of moving on from that, so you found yourself to be trading full-time, you quit your job. Can you now give us a kind of a brief overview of what you're working on right now, kind of how you're honing your skills, what you're doing to become a better trader?
So what I'm doing is I'm essentially keeping track of every single trade I do, which should be standard for most traders, but I'm taking it to another level. So not only am I pairing that with different theories that I didn't even hear about when I was trading traditional stocks, I'm actually honing myself on those theories, like the hyperwave theories that aren't exactly by the book, theories that are a little bit more out there based on linguistics and all sorts of stuff like that. That's how I'm essentially improving my trading. So I'm actually looking at trading a little bit more, I guess a little bit more intricately, like not so by the book, more radical, since crypto is a radical market as it is. And I think that's something that a lot of traditional traders sort of struggle when they do come into crypto markets.
I feel like a lot of people try to apply these same rules that apply to traditional
Exactly.
markets, and they sometimes struggle with it. But I want to touch on one thing specifically that you mentioned there, and it was this tracking or journaling of each trade. I know you said that most traders should be doing this. I'm not sure that all traders do. So can you just talk about, that whole process and how that's been beneficial to you thus far?
Yeah, so absolutely. So right now, I've had this trading challenge going around where I'm turning zero point 0.5 Bitcoin over to 5 Bitcoin. The purpose of this challenge was to bring transparency to the cryptocurrency, I guess this cryptocurrency market, the cryptocurrency community, you would say. With this journal, it not only helps me assess daily how I'm doing emotionally, because ultimately you want to be an emotionless trader, right? You want to be able to reset every single time you plug in a trade. Unfortunately, we are humans, so emotions take play. A lot of times you hear the word FOMO, you hear the word FUD. Well, FOMO is pretty much fear of missing out, where traders think that they aren't satisfied with the amount of profit they get, and then they go back in. By creating this journal, I can see step by step every single day how exactly am I dealing with my emotions when it comes to trading. Let's just say there's a day where I end up losing 5+%, which is quite a lot. Then I can make a note right there specifically for that day saying, hey, look, what caused me to make these decisions, right? Was I emotional in the sense of, was there something outside of trading that affected me and that in turn affected my trading? Or was I just being reckless? And I can make notes like that. And I think it's very important to do so. That is primarily the reason why I keep this trading journal for myself. The reason why I keep this trading journal for the public, I guess, and why I pretty much announce it to the public through my Twitter is because I want to bring transparency to the community. We talked about this before. A lot of people think a lot of traders out there are scammers, unfortunately. Right? You hear this thing about paid groups, and most paid group leaders are scammers. They themselves cannot trade, therefore they create these groups. They charge members money, and then essentially they exit scam. I don't believe that is true for all traders. I definitely know some very good traders in the market, and I think that with this trading challenge, we can actually show people that there are legitimate traders in the market, and hopefully by then, the traders that do come in on the next bull run, they can assess who exactly is real, and they can make their choices based on transparency versus just hearsay.
So you touched on a couple things there. I kind of just want to do a bit of a recap. So the first thing that you talked about was being an emotionless trader and how key and vital that is to being a successful trader. And you're so right, because, I had my little stint in trading, but, I'd enter a position and then it would drop a couple percent and I'd see my portfolio value go down and I'd start to panic and I'd start to worry and I would sell instead of sticking to my original plan of I made this trade because of X, Y, and Z. I'm sticking to it until this happens. It was, oh no, I lost a couple quick percentage. I got to get out. I'm going to continue to lose more. So the fact that, you're doing this for yourself to kind of understand your emotions through the process is something that is extremely vital to anyone who wants to be successful trading.
Absolutely.
So I think for anyone out there who's trying to get into trading, other than learning the basics of, how to trade, the next step to really bring yourself to the next level and separate yourself from the herd is to create a journal and kind of understand the thought process that you were going through as you make these trades. So I know a lot of people don't do this, and I think that that's something that you can teach them, and hopefully they can improve their trading through. And then you talked about transparency in the community, and you talked about how, a lot of these people who have these paid groups don't know how to trade, and this in turn gives a bad name to all the other traders out there. So I really like that you've got this logged on Twitter for everyone to see. 6 months from now, someone can check in and say, how's Z doing on his trading journal? How's he doing in his process? And I think that's really going to create that transparency that's needed. So I love what you're doing with this trading journal. It's beneficial to everybody in the community, including yourself. So I'm looking forward to, kind of how this progresses and the progress that you make on it. So that's what I'm really excited for with regards to you. Can you tell my audience what you're most excited for in 2019?
So I'm actually really excited about a few projects. Now I'm going to plug in my project right here, and that is a project called TOKEO. I am developing an app right now that is going to be a center of all media content. So for example, I know you, and I know that you produce great content that is essentially back tested, right? You're a good guy. You've got some great guests that are all vetted by you, vetted by the community, are solid individuals. So I have no problem putting your stuff on the app. The app is essentially going to be free. It's going to be called TOKEO, and you're going to be able to get all of this vetted content all in one go, one-stop shop on your phone, as a Mac app, and also on Apple TV. This is something that's going to be really powerful. There's going to be charts on there. There's going to be a ton of different content on there, great podcasts like yourself on there. And once again, it's going to be 100% vetted. And, it's going to be essentially a great tool for this community to grow and not have to deal with scammers, not have to deal with, the shillers, not have to deal with the people that are just in it for, the money, that actually don't want to give something back to the community. So this is going to be a really powerful tool, and it's going to be completely free, guys. So take a look at that for sure. It's going to be called TOKEO, with a TOKEO like the city, but with an E instead of a Y.
So yeah, that's TOKEO for everyone who's listening. I really like this whole idea of vetted content. There's too many people out there just putting stuff out there.
Absolutely.
It's hard to see who's real, who's genuine, who's fake, who's scamming. So this idea, you're kind of following up with what you're doing with your trading. This transparency that you're trying to show in the community is going to flow into this app, this media content kind of hub with vetted content producers. So I really like that. Now, touching on your trading for the year, what are you working on? What do you think you have the most? What can improve most in your trading?
So I think for me, the one thing I want to improve the most at is looking at crypto in a macro view. So I think there is a specific type of mentality, a specific type of feel towards combining fundamentals with technical analysis. And I think too many traders out there either go with, your standard traditional trader either goes by the book and only looks at the micro, only looks at what is happening on the charts. And obviously, as you know, crypto has there's a lot of crazy catalysts going around with crypto, right? With forex, with news coming in, with bans, countrywide bans. There's a lot of things that can influence the market, and that's what traditional traders and by the book traders lack. They lack taking outside news, and they lack also taking fundamentals of a project in consideration with their trading. So I think for me, that my biggest thing for 2019 is not only to be transparent with everybody, but to also tie in that fundamental sort of aspect along with my technical aspect and combining that into best of both worlds, essentially.
I feel like so many people who try to get into trading just focus solely on the charts. They follow, 50 different people who post charts on the daily, and they don't get any of the news and this macro stuff that you're talking about. So that's another key thing to trading. And I think a lot of people need to develop this, is understanding how outside events kind of affect the price of certain assets. So 2 great things. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that has an effect on your trading. And again, I will be able to see that through your trading journal. So really excited to see what's coming from you in this coming year. There's one last question I have for you. I kind of like to ask everybody this because, they're experts in their field and they've made mistakes along the way and kind of learned through experience. So if you were starting all over, you didn't have any of the knowledge you had today, you didn't know anything about TA, you didn't know about macro events and how they affect the market, what is the first thing that you would do to get back to where you're at today?
I would read. I think that reading is the most important thing. Knowledge is power. And with that knowledge, you can become your own expert in a field. Now, obviously, it takes a little bit of time, but reading is key. You always hear about these extremely successful people reading a book a day, a book a week, and I think that it's undervalued. There's too many people out there that want to find things really quickly. They want to get this instant satisfaction, and I think that with reading, it may be tedious, it may take a little bit of time, but there's so much knowledge that you can gather from books, from articles, from the expert, I guess you would say, in that field that you're trying to get into. And that is why I think that reading is just so important. And if I could start all over again, I would start with reading. I would start reading in TA, and I would go down that path.
So you talked about two key things there. One, reading, because you get to, learn from professionals and experts in the field, and you get their thoughts through a book. So one, that, and then two, this patience, this, you're not going to get this instant gratification, instant satisfaction. You're not going to become the best trader overnight. You're going to need to take time and really put in the work to become a successful trader. So for anyone who's listening, do you think you could just drop maybe a couple resources or a couple books that have been super helpful in your trading career?
Okay. So my favorite book to date on learning about, my first attachment into trading is Fibonacci and Gann applications in financial markets. Now, it's a little bit drawn out. It's by George A. McLean. It's an older book, and this is a book tailored specifically for trading. And it's a little bit more of an intense, more advanced book, but this book I definitely suggest any trader to read personally. And then my second book that I really like is The Visual Investor: How to Spot Market Trends by John J. Murphy.
Right on.
This one's a little bit easier, and it's a fantastic book. It's a way to essentially spot, how the market is moving and to spot what makes a healthy market.
Right on. Perfect. So we've got those two, and then I know you had mentioned earlier that you've got this Google Doc that has, a vast amount of resources, different books that you've read, and stuff like that. So for anyone who's listening, we're going to have that available to you.
Yes.
So you can check the description for that, kind of dive into Z's mind and, kind of learn what he's learned and what's been successful and helpful for him. So thank you. I really appreciate it. Again, everyone, number 1 and 2 overarching tips for anyone trying to break into trading is start reading. You're not going to learn how to do this by reading one book or one article. Really immerse yourself, become a sponge, and try to pick up as many different trading techniques and ideologies as possible. And then 2, be patient. This isn't something that happens overnight. It's like any other business. Any other thing that you're trying to become successful in, it takes more than just a night or two. It takes more than a week, a month. You could be trading for 6 months unsuccessfully, but eventually, if you keep at it, you will grow, you'll learn, and you will become that successful trader. So again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. You've dropped so many knowledge bombs on our listeners. So I really truly believe that anyone listening is going to be able to up their game immensely when it comes to trading.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much for having me on.
All right, guys, to see more from Nekoz and to check out how his trading journal is going so far, head over to his social media. We'll have links in the description below. And again, if you enjoyed the episode, you learned something from Nekoz or myself, give us a 5-star rating, retweet this, and share it with your network. We really appreciate it. Thanks again, and see you next episode.